Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sundays. Happy Sundays, everyone. Happy Sundays, warriors. Welcome to this transmission, my Sunday transmission. We are talking karmic imprints and clearance. Say hello when you join in. Let me know that you are here, you're joining in to this transmission. I'm really excited to share, because this has been such an active conversation for me. And in fact, a couple of hours back, 2 hours back, I interacted also with this energy again. And I was like, I'm going to talk about this. Guardians, you don't need to make me go through this experience to really get the importance of understanding karmic imprints and why we have to clear them. So, we're going to jump in. Hello, Akona. Hello, hi, Beth. Hello, Rol. Hello, Fez. Thank you for joining. Happy reverence to the living source, God. This day is usually the day we go to church, to our sacred temples, to celebrate our connection with the living source of creation, in the different ways that we express that. Even for me today, Sundays are warrior mystery school days. We are actually returning today. We are gonna have our session in a couple of hours. So happy Reverence Day, in alignment with how you celebrate the Sunday. It's also a day of rest and a day of contemplations. For me, it's a day of contemplations as well, other than connecting, right? Hi, Nonisi. So good to have you here joining in. Happy New Year. Happy New Year also. I haven't seen you in a while. Okay. So let's jump in, shall we? Karmic imprints and clearance. Right. This frequency has been very alive for me since December. And my work really is also about clearing imprints, right? But it has been really alive, and I am aware that it's also something that's happening to a lot of us. It's a collective frequency, particularly for genetic pathcutters. So this conversation will mostly be aligned for the genetic pathcutter who is on the ascension journey, who is on the mastery journey, who's on the ancestral healing journey, right? So I hope this will support you in your mastery. Yes, so I have alluded to this in other videos, but I want to break it down again, right? So when we awaken, what is happening on a cellular level is that we are tuning in to the bigger reality of who we are, which we may call the multidimensional reality. We're starting to realize that our lives are not these singular experiences that are happening to us, but that there is a lot of things that are influencing the experiences that we are having, right? And most of us, we awaken because we experience the dark night of the soul. And during the dark night of the soul, what's really happening is confronting the current holographic reality of your separation from source, from your natural state as an angelic human, your natural state as a magical being, as an ancient warrior, as an ancient being, right? So that dark night of the soul, of course, the first time it happens, you probably don't understand it at the level in which I'm talking about. But that's what's really happening. Our awakening is almost like we enter a state of grief for being here, for being in the state where you feel like you have forgotten who you really are, but you also feel like you know innately in your being that you are a being of the elementals, of magic, of alchemy, all these amazing things that we are drawn to. For those of us who love fantasy and sci-fi, it's because we recognize ourselves, we recognize these as our mythologies, as our legends, right? So the reason why we see or perceive ourselves as separate from our divinity, from magic, is because of the bigger history of our planet. And I don't want to go deep into that, but I do want to allude that somewhere in our history there's a point where our connection to the higher world, to the spiritual world, started to break, and we fell further and further and further away from the true worlds where we originate from. And we are in this world now that, for us, when we look with our physical eyes, it feels like there's only this one world. And and this one world still feels insufficient to what we know innately is supposed to be happening in a world of creation, right? So when we fell further and further and further away, the actions and the choices and the decisions that made us fall further away from the higher worlds are basically choices that were in service to the individual self as compared to service to the all, to the oneness, to the unity, right? So every time you make a choice just for the benefit of yourself, without considering how it will affect other people, we create a separation, like that I am more important, my life is more important for preservation, so I am making this choice, right? And what we don't understand is, like, a long time ago, that is not how we existed with each other. There was a symbiosis. We were so connected to each other that also telepathy was like our natural way of communication. So we will always make choices that will benefit the all. But we are in this new realm where the choices we make are individualistic, narcissistic, self-centered, right? And because of that, we fell into realities where things like war happen, things like slavery happen, colonization, just violence against each other, humans violating each other. That happened because of this separation. And each time we will make choices that separate us, we actually create something within our blood breaks, right? It goes into a state of shock. Your energetic spiritual bodies go into a state of shock because that's not their natural expression, or the highest form of that natural expression. And that, whatever that experience will be, so for example, if you experience a violation whether that's in the physical body or a mental body, that experience will create that wedge in the physical and the spiritual bodies, and that will cover up your natural magic. And so we can understand the reason why right now we don't believe in magic, even though we are magical beings, is because we are now covered up with so many of these imprints, all of these separations that happen throughout many generations. And now we exist in a world that feels like, actually, I can't make fire come out of my hand, even though actually fundamentally I can and you can. But because we have these imprints that are the pain and the separation and the violence that has happened covering up the magic, it's difficult for us to access this elemental magic that we have. The reason why I know we are elemental magic is because we are connected to the elements of fire, of water, of air, of earth, and of the ether, right? We are just like any other kingdom, right? That has access to its magic, that has maintained its magic. And the human kingdom in particular has been the one that, at least I think when we look at it, has been afflicted by the separation through the conscious choices we've made, and also obviously other choices that were made by other people who are in leadership, in higher level of understanding and consciousness and so forth. Right? Are you with me? I hope you're with me. So when, for example, I use the women folk, women, when we moved and shifted from a reality of the matriarchal to the patriarchal, which was, by the way, a natural phenomenon. Before patriarchy, we used to exist in a matriarchy, and one day we're going to exist in matriarchy, and then back to patriarchy. And in the same way that right now it feels like the patriarchy has created all of these big problems, there is a point also where the matriarchal generation, civilization, also went through a state of darkness, because this is a cycle of expression and evolution that our consciousness is in, right? So right now we are in the darkest period of the patriarchal leadership, and the patriarchal leadership, because our world is moving along patriarchal systems. And what is happening on an individual level existing in this period is that we, all of us, are here to come and heal these imprints that were made by choices that our ancestors have been making, that our souls have been making from one lifetime to another, right? And the way that we are healing this is that in your current life, as it is, every person you're interacting with, every experiences that you've had, it is not a single experience that is randomly happening to you, the first point. It's also not an experience completely created to create suffering for you. Like, there are some experiences that, one, at higher levels of our being, we chose to come and experience them. For example, a lot of us, we do choose the families we will incarnate in, right? So not all of us, but a lot of the human community, you choose your bloodline, right? And part of the reason why I am sharing, I wanted to talk about the Karmic Imprints is because I had a client of mine yesterday who he discovered that he chose to incarnate in his bloodline to come and help these two bloodlines to heal. He becomes the bridge for these two bloodlines to heal, right? And there are many of us who do that, who volunteer to come and heal a bloodline, or who come and to create a bridge for two families to come and heal, because they have prior experiences from the past that created a lot of pain, and that pain is moving through generations over and over again. And that sometimes the best way to heal that big wound, that big imprint, is to have a child be born between these two families, so that this child can be the one who transmutes that pain through just existing. That life will be the medicine, right? Does that make sense? Let me know. So we often choose some families because we want to come and heal the karmic imprints. So what is really this karma? Because I know we may know concept of karma, but from my gnosis, I've come to understand karma as a state of separation, right? And it's similar, for me, karma is similar to the word sin. To sin is to move away from your divinity, to forget who you really are, and make choices that are not in alignment with your true divinity and the divinity of the other person, right? And the community and the world, right? And when we enter states of separating ourselves and we make choices that are not benefiting everyone, that creates that imprint, and we call that a karmic imprint. And this imprint can be an imprint that your soul has created, or an imprint that was created by someone else on your soul. So this will look like if you've had experiences of violation, that imprint will be in your field, right? And when you have that imprint and in your field, it's going to move with your soul from one lifetime to another. Because the imprint itself is happening at a cellular level within your DNA coding, and DNA is not something that's only physical, it's also a quantum thing that's existing. That is why trauma travels across bloodlines, right? The experiences of our ancestors keep repeating because those traumas, they don't disappear, right? And it's not as if a scientist can look at your blood and be like, oh, I see the trauma, there they are. No, I'm sure they can, but the trauma itself is stored in the Akasha, the Akashic field. And that's why we are still here in a state of chaos as the world, because the experiences that have happened where there was war, where there was colonization, where there was violence, where there was any form of segregation, oppression, and those are alive, right? They're alive in the quantum field because we exist. Even though this looks physical to you, the source of all the experiences we are having is not this physical reality. The source is the quantum, the Akashic. So we are all dreaming first. We dream our world first, but we dream our world with the material that's existing in the Akashic fields. So if the material that's in the Akashic fields are all the pains and all the traumas and so on, that's the world we're going to create, right? Yes, I hope you're with me. Are you with me? I can dive deep into quantum yeah. Oh, hello, Romeo. Yes, high level, yes. A lot of karmic cleansing and healing is needed. So let's actually break this down a little bit on a personal level, how this may look like. Right? So the first thing to recognize what is the karmic imprint your soul has signed up to heal is to start to look at patterns that you have. So let's use something that is easy for most people to recognize. Let's use, a lot of our karmic imprints are easy to see within our relationships, right? So think about the intimate relationships that you have. Look at something similar around the relationships that you had, but particularly look at how you act, react, experience yourself when you are inside relationships, right? That is your karmic imprint that wants to be healed. And that karmic imprint keeps trying to tell you about itself by magnetizing and resonating with particular partners that will keep making you feel the same kind of emotion, right? So prior to this live stream, a little back in December, I went deep into my karmic imprints around my relationship with the masculine, right? And I've been having a lot of nights where I'm dreaming a lot about ex-partners, ex-boyfriends that I've had. Some of them are from this lifetimes. Others I recognize, I know the soul, but not from this lifetime, right? And what I noticed with the clearings that I was having is a lack of agency within myself. And I recognize this lack of agency coming, one, at a soul level, based on my own journeys of retrieving my Akashic memories from the Akasha, right, past experiences, but also lack of agency that is very rife within the feminine field. Women can understand this. The lack of agency, not agency. Yes, it is that lack of agency. Like that when you are in a relationship, for example, you have the right to say no if you don't want to do anything. But more than anything, having the ability to recognize when something is a no for you. And for women, this is not something we are attuned to, because we fell into a dark patriarchal frequency where the feminine was pushed further and further, and our needs were not priority, right? Such that if your partner says, "Oh, babe, I'm coming over to take you out," you automatically feel, "Oh, I have to dress up and go." There isn't an agency to check in the body to say, "Do I want to go out? Can I actually say no?" That's just an example of this lack of agency, that it's an imprint that comes because the feminine, which is the physical body that I have embodied in this lifetime, is holding, and we are holding this imprints, like I said, in the blood, but also in the auric fields, in the energetic fields, right? So that's why women always have similar stories, because we keep creating our experiences with the elements that are existing in the quantum. And those elements right now are not in union. They are not supporting our union with the masculine, right? So, yes, so I've been tasked with clearing these deep imprints, and a lot of these imprints are connected to also slavery and the breeding programs that the feminine has went through, where we have went through experiences of violation to the physical female body, which is the issues in our planet. Is a lot of it has to do with the female body being violated and the male mind being violated. It's almost a similar imprint, but it's the same, but it's different, of course. So this is, before I did this live stream, I got triggered because my dog decided he is going to come into my room, right? And he's a male dog, into my room while I was working. And that's because it was raining and he's afraid of lightning. And this really triggered me so deeply. Like, I was so upset. And when I sat down and I was wondering, why am I so upset? Because I've come to understand that actually it's not just my dog. All dogs don't like lightning, and so it's just a normal response for him. He was afraid. But what was moving through my body was feeling being intruded. And that's an imprint that the female is aware of. If you're a female, you're aware of the intrusion and the sense of unsafety, of also how the male body can colonize a space. And it's not even that the man himself is trying to colonize the space. It's because he's also carrying the imprints of the man before him, that in the past they have colonized spaces. They come into the room and everyone feels uncomfortable. If you are an African, you probably know this feeling around our very authoritarian fathers and grandfathers, right? Where when they come, we all have to create space for them. And it doesn't matter what you are doing, you have to move. Right? That's how that imprint came up for me, right? Through the dog. And I guess it was some kind of reminder before this live stream of the importance of us becoming aware of our triggers and going deeper. Instead of me, there's a point where I was obsessed about the dog and I was so upset, and I was like, I never even wanted a dog. I went into victimhood, right? And that's the thing with karmic imprints. We can't heal our karmic imprints if we only operate from victimhood. We can recognize when, yes, something is happening to us, or it feels it's happening to us. We feel that intrusion, that sense of attack, and we can want to go into fight or flight or freeze or fawning. But the way we clear karmic imprints is to transcend the victim consciousness. We have to transcend the victim consciousness, because if you are a genetic path cutter, you understand that a lot of the things we are experiencing, they don't originate from today, and that we are in a cyclical process. There is times where we are the victims and times where we are not the victim, we are the victimizer. And we honor ourselves when we're in victim, but we get stuck in karmic loops, right? And a karmic loop it's that thing that you've been trying to heal and change for a really long time, and it's just refusing to go. That's your karmic loop. You're stuck in a loop. Year in, year out is the same problem, right? And you've tried everything, right? So that karmic loop is actually reflecting to you a big imprint that your soul is holding, that may even be connected to your ancestral bloodline, that may be connected to why you came into that ancestral bloodline, right? So for example, a lot of karmic loops, for example, may come in the sense of patterns, right, with how you relate to other people. A karmic loop can be connected to your relationship with money, your relationship with the body, disease. Often when we experience disease, that disease often comes from a karmic loop. You are stuck in, your body has experienced the pain and the shame of feeling separate from its magic, that it creates the disease to preserve itself. Actually, disease is a form of preservation, because your soul felt attacked for 1 year after another. It's the same kind of pain and suffering, so it ends up creating the disease to calm you down, to take you back to rest, so that the body can actually go into natural defense and actually heal you if you could rest, if you could let it go. But of course we struggle with that because we don't understand why we get diseases, for example, right? Yes. So karmic loops, how do we heal karmic loops? So the first one is recognize if there is something in your life that keeps repeating, the chances of it originating from ancient timelines is very high. It's either something your soul, before it came into this lifetime, chose that this is what I'm going to work with. I am volunteering to come and deal with this trauma that happened to the black body or the female body or the male body, and I will experience it and heal it through myself, through my life, through my magic, through my life, through my divinity, right? And so that's a big energy, right? So you have all of your life to heal that big thing, which means you can relax if you are feeling like, oh my God, I've been stuck in the same situation for a long time. You are not really stuck. You're not really stuck. You are being given more opportunities to clear that. So if it keeps coming up, it truly wants you to deal with it, right? To say, oh my God, this is my karmic energy frequency. This is the imprint that wants to be undone. Can you unvolunteer? This question is interesting because so if you are unvolunteer, that means you're unvolunteering the human experience, right? Then you will be, let's say for example, a cloud, or you will be existing in a state of bliss. But could you possibly really exist in a state of bliss for eternity, for all infinite time? The thing is, you can't, because that's what actually brought you here. We all eventually have this impulse to create, to heal, to evolve, to grow. So the truth is, you may have unvolunteered at some point and you got bored with being unvolunteered. You're like, this is it. I'm just sitting here in utter bliss forever. okay, I need some challenges. And then you kind of volunteer to come here to planet Earth. Right? Yes, it's hard. It's hard because the karmic imprints most of us are healing, particularly genetic pathcutters, are old, they're very ancient. Right? These are imprints that are so big that we've been trying to heal for thousands of lifetimes. So when you have this imprint, this karmic loop that's repeating, chances are you've been trying to heal it for a couple of lifetimes, right? And now the good news is that we are at this verge of entering a new golden age. We are in the beginning of it, in the middle, not in the middle, we are nowhere in the middle, but we're in the beginning, almost also the end of the Kali Yuga, this dark age that we've been in. And so there is what we call photonic lights, right, that are coming from the cosmos. I've spoken about this. These photonic lights, when they come down, if you're a genetic pathcutter and you are open and you are willing to heal your karmic imprints, and you're like, I want to really deal with this loop that I'm in. The cosmic energies, the cosmic gods will hear your acceptance of this invitation, and they will begin to send this photonic light, which actually may be even thought of as, the power of it is similar to a nuclear bomb. And this nuclear bomb come from the sun, which we call it solar energy. So the solar energy will drop into your cells, into your DNA, and it will begin to unwind the imprints, right? So the way that we heal, a lot of us, we think we need to use our mind, but actually it's more about being aligned with the divine energies and working with the divine frequencies to unwind this imprints, all of that pain, this loop, right? The reason why you are important in the story of the divine experience of Earth is because you are physical, and that allows the bigger cosmic energies to work through you, to release thousands and thousands of lifetimes through your physical body. This is why, as genetic pathcutters, we say we're healing our ancestral bloodlines, and that through me, I'm going to heal thousands of my ancestors. That's true, because what you are healing is you are unwinding the DNA, but you are not unwinding the physical DNA. This is where we get stuck. You are actually unwinding the quantum DNA. You are clearing the entire fields, which is how you are healing your ancestors and also the future generation, right? So if we have, so right now, the feminine fields, a lot of us as women, we are clearing out the imprint of sexual trauma, sexual violence, sexual frequencies, right? Because that's where our biggest trauma and imprinting comes from, right? And for the males, you are actually clearing your mind, because the violation that happened to men is through their mind. The separation is in the mind, where the man feels alone in the world, and that's what often sometimes pulls the man into being the victimizer, and then the female, the victim, right? So if we want to go into a state of victim, we will refuse what I'm saying. But if you want to heal, you have to allow yourself to see it this way, that all of us are cells within the earth, and we are all contributing, clearing out all these big miasmas to create the golden age, right? To clear out the path for our ancestors and the future generations that's coming, right? You're welcome, Koketo. Does that make sense? So how do we actually clear, and how do we work with photonic lights? So as of this year, since 2012, there has been cosmic photonic lights coming down on Earth, and that's part of why we are all awakening. There's a huge surge of everyone being drawn to healing, to spirituality, to also returning to the ancient ways, right? It's these photonic lights that are, so our awakening is happening in the DNA, in the cells. So it's not in your mind, even though you think, I randomly found a book and then the book made me read and then after that I'm here. No, it first started in the quantum. Your awakening first started in your dreams through your cells, and then you're here. And it will continue to work that way. This is why dreams are important in African spirituality, in all forms of spiritualities, because we actually change our reality first in the dream state, because all realities exist first as a dream and then it becomes real. Like this Instagram that we're in, it was first created in the dream and then it manifested into the physical. We don't even really know how we even have phones. Do we get that? We don't, right? Because reality is crazy and complex and quantum. Hi Fresh, happy new year. So good to see you here. Oh yes, okay. Got excited. Yes, what was I saying? So we have to align ourselves with divine energies, right? They are really high level beings who are right now supporting us in our ancient clearings, in our karmic clearings, right? And that's part of why we are drawn to wanting to connect with our ancestors and so on, right? The more you have big karmic loops, the more you're going to feel the call to connect, and you're going to feel people who are drawn, for example, to me. I see that we are doing two jobs. We're clearing our souls as well as the ancestral. And people who are also drawn to me are drawn because part of your destiny is to work with high level consciousness as well. So this is like angelic beings, Christed guardians, the offices of the Melchizedek and Christ orders and all of that, right? And so that's part of why you keep finding yourself listening to me, even though sometimes you don't understand what I'm talking about, right? Because, so why you will listen to something you don't really understand and you keep finding yourself drawn to it, what's happening is that there's a transmission from myself to your DNA that's unwinding you also. So this is also a form of karmic cleansing. Listening to transmissions and teachings is a form of karmic cleansings. Sitting down and actually working with the breath, right? To feel these triggers and to let go when it feels appropriate for you of the state of victimhood is a way of karmic cleansing. And then the reason why in African spirituality we work with elements, that is water, we go to the rivers and so on. The fire, we work with fire, we work with the wind, we work with the earth, and with the ether. These are the 5 elements. It's because these 5 elements have maintained that divinity, that magic, and so forth. And so because of that, when you interact with, for example, with the water in the river, it is still retaining its purity. Of course, some rivers, their job is actually to help us in healing, because I have interacted with a river that's holding the trauma of the village, you know. But there are rivers that allow us to cleanse out these ancient frequencies. This is why you want to visit these elemental spaces. You want to visit the mountains and the hills and the rivers. And you want to, wherever you say, in terms of your sacred space, if you have a sacred space, you want to have these elements, all of them in your house. You want to have like a space for pure water. You know, you want to have a space for where there's fire, candles. That's why we burn candles, right? We're working with the element of fire, which is a powerful transmuter. It can literally burn out all of that karma, right? Not in the physical, of course, at a quantum level. Yes, and you want to have the earth, and you want to engage with the air and the wind as well, right? So that's how we do karmic cleansings. Just this little exercise I used to do when I'm walking and I feel the wind in my face, and I would just commune with the wind, and ask it to clear out any imprints that are in my field, right? And I often felt better and felt these changes. I do a lot of work within the trance state, right? And that's where meditation is important, to allow yourself to go into the trance state and travel through time. You need to understand meditation. One, we are portals. We are living portals, right? And as portals, we actually have access to time, what we call time. Through our own bodies, we can travel in the past and the future, right? And since a lot of our karmic imprints come from the past, but not necessarily, it's just that our human mind struggles with the idea that the future also affects us today. That's another story for another day. The past, right? Our ancestral experiences. You can literally travel to events that have happened to your ancestors. The easiest way I found this to be easy for most people is if you go to these elemental spaces, the rivers, and you allow yourself to go into a state of relaxation, you will access that. The river will power you up like an electric circuit, power you up, and it will be easier to travel in time to go and clear those imprints. How do we clear imprints? Because you see, sound is sound is one of the most powerful. The sound and light, which we call scalar wave, these are two operatives for magic and alchemy. When you use sound, which is the words you are saying, when you command that here we end this imprint of scarcity with money, right? In your time travel, when you're meditating, right? You will start to see certain shifts happening in your reality, right? When you go into the dream state, because meditating is a form of going to the dream state, and you go consciously, you can use the sound and light, right? What kind of light would you use if you want to clear something? I particularly like these two light color, right? Gold is connected to Christ, which is divine masculine frequency. So when you work with the gold, I know a lot of people like to work with white, but actually the color white is currently compromised in our world. So you want to work with gold for Christ frequency. If you're healing something to deal with the masculine, you can literally use that gold to clear that. That's a Christed energy. And if you want to clear something connected to the feminine, you want to work with sapphire blue, like that blue color that we put in our candle. The candle that's like royal sapphire blue, right? The sapphire blue is the Holy Mother, Nala, Sophia, Mam Wenti frequency. And most women are holding that blue frequency in their womb, right? And men are holding this golden frequency. And then obviously there are differences also that exist because of our individual origins and blueprints, right? Yeah, so you want to work with color. Using your imagination, you can literally cleanse your field with this golden frequency and go into the cells. And then that's light. You're working with light. And then when you add the sound, you're saying, I'm clearing out this. I'm commanding this to dissolve out of my field. Then you are working with scalar wave, which opens you up to heal. Because remember, you are an ancient artifact. You are an ancient master who has forgotten that I am master. That's why it feels so hard. It feels so hard because you know this is not how it's supposed to be. Yeah. So yes, that's how we do karmic clearing. Of course, then you can also deepen it and work with a specialist. But I think it's important for us to know that anytime we're interacting with something that really triggers us, we can actually clear it in that moment. We don't always have to go to, if you have access to the river, great. But you can also just work with sound and light all the time and work with the elements in your house, right? And that's where the spiritual bath and using your own pepper to clear your field is also about, right? Yes. Okay. So does that make sense? I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or any thoughts. Hi. Ruthie, hello. Jills, hi Bosa, thank you for joining. I am glad, Koketso, that example makes sense for you. So the reason why I'm talking about karmic imprints is because if you are a genetic path cutter right now in this year, there are a lot of photonic lights that are dropping down right now, which means they are unwinding this karmic imprint. So you're going to actually see a lot of the experiences you're having being filled with these triggers, filled with discomfort, because the photonic lights are trying to show you what you need to clear. So most of us, when events are happening to us, we go into feeling like it's happening to us rather than realize, oh, it's happening for me to see something inside me that wants to be healed, that wants to be cleared, right? So the event with the dog today was, for me, an opportunity to continue healing my fear of the masculine, because I ended up actually leaving the dog in the house, and I was really upset about that. But I really had to move through my emotions of victimhood. I'm still partly upset about it. I'm not really yet over it, but I did move away from feeling like a victim once I went into understanding and forgiveness. And I had to tell my inner child, let's forgive Panky because he's really frightened. Also, I thought, you see, if all dogs are afraid of what is it called? Lightning. That's a karmic imprint that's in their DNA, right? So he can't even help himself, in the same way that Black people, we are kind of afraid of water because, slavery and all, we don't completely feel free up in there, Yes, it's a karmic imprint we have. It's not going to disappear. So once I moved into a state of understanding why this event is happening, then I could move to forgiveness. And sometimes the human will take long to catch up with the healing. So I'm still tiny bit upset. And I have declared I will never have another dog, but I will have to go back and really feel if that's the truth or that was just me triggered, right? Yeah. Yes. So these photonic lights are giving you invitation to heal. It's hard, warriors. It's hard to be a genetic path cutter. It's hard to be alive right now. But it's also that you are literally the right person to do this. The right person in your family, the right person to deal with whatever your karmic loops are, karmic imprints are, even if sometimes it feels like you are underqualified. You're like, I don't think I could ever heal this. It's like impossible. That's just your imposter syndrome talking, your saboteur talking. But really, ultimately, your higher self is aware of your capability, and we're here for this. Remember also, this is important with karmic imprints. Sometimes when we heal karmic imprints, it does not mean that karma will disappear in this lifetime. Meaning, to heal doesn't mean it's cured, right? To heal means that you are no longer in suffering because of the external experience happening, right? But it's important also to know, contrary to what you may have been told, every single thing in this planet can be healed and cured. Very controversial, but it's the truth. You just have to know this and begin to work with this truth for it to reflect in your reality. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, everyone. I am glad Koketo, this was helpful. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, this transmission has been wanting to come through Akwana. I now recognize that I'm in victimhood. Victimhood is a very big wound for us, particularly the feminine, right? And we can recognize that. Black people also, because of what? Experiences that happened with our ancestors, right? So we recognize that and we honor that, but we are not gonna change our reality and really heal these traumas if we don't transcend victim consciousness, transcend victimhood. Yeah. Okay. That's it for this Sunday. Thank you everyone for joining me. I'm trying to do this every Sundays and Thursdays. Yes, just to support us in our journeys. So these photonic lights, by the way, that's what's creating exhaustion, for those who are feeling exhausted, wanting to sleep. When you go to sleep, you're actually going to clear karmic imprints. So do not resist your nap time. It's important. It's helping you clear these karmic imprints, and you can make the intentions that every time I go to sleep, I'm healing my ancestral miasma and my soul miasma. Okay. Yes. Great. For those who are joining now, please re-listen. This was a very exciting, I think, powerful transmission that will really benefit if you replay it. Yeah. I will see you next Thursday. Okay. Bye. Yeah.